Welcome to the 2023 Global DEI Conference, a transformative platform for DEI presented by Ludo and One Business World. Thank you for joining us for this dynamic convergence of global thought leaders and change makers as we foster equity and shape the future. We have presentations from all over the world. We just had a presentation from the US. Now we have Nila dialing in from India, and she is the Vice President and Global Lead of Diversity and Inclusion for Standard Chartered Bank. Nila, we are so delighted to have you. Over to you.
The pleasure is mine, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been a great day. I've been a part, as in I've witnessed so many presentations, and it's been wonderful. And thanks to Ludo and to One Business World for putting this together. And it's just amazing. Thank you for having me. So I'm just going to start off without a big introduction of myself, but I'll come to that later. So my topic is a world without labels and how can we create one. So when we think of labels, when we identify a certain product with a particular label, let's imagine this. So it's red, white, and black, and we all know it's Coca-Cola. And it is an example of a strong brand identity. It's a global brand, and all customers of this particular brand, um, are part of a series of happiness. Share happiness, and the brand itself says the drink evokes feelings like happiness and joy. Then we go on to a brand like the Mercedes, and this particular brand talks about being exclusive. It's a product that is superior and exclusive. It's targeted at a particular group or audience, and it also the brand manual also talks about German precision, talks about the country of origin. It talks about the detail it goes into. It's associated with a larger part or a community, and it also talks about quality and discipline. And we have another brand. This is Lego. And much like its target audience and its customers, the brand calls it's derived from the Danish word for play well. So, and it identifies itself as a fun, imaginative, and creative brand. And it's very, very innovative in the way it approaches its branding or marketing. So, what I'd be doing for the next 25 or so minutes is to make these minutes as personable as possible. I'm not bringing in big theories, no culture strategies. I'm going to make it as simple, learning from life experiences, from mostly what we see every day. And I hope I'm able to connect with you all. Again, now coming back, moving on from the brands that we use, looking at the world around us. How do we define the world and its culture around us? Right? So there are different ways in which we define. And from this presentation, you could see I'm dialing in from India, so we are the land of movies. It says it's a better option to the one we usually associated with, the land of snake charmers and elephants, and the most recent one, the land of tech support. Yes, so there is an association with every particular country or the barriers that humans have created over the ages, and we go by defining a particular tag or a brand or a name to every country, every person, every brand, right? So how do we define the world and its cultures? And similarly, now, my next question to you is, how have we redefined people around us? How have we redefined the people that we work with around us? A few years ago, I was at a church summer retreat, a summer youth retreat, and I was very impacted with a video that was played. It was about a young man. He had multiple labels on him. It spoke of a a derogatory side of him. He was called a freak, he was called clumsy, he was unloved, he was a loser, he was a failure, he was naive, and the world had branded him in so many ways, right? And this is the societal branding or the labeling on this particular individual. And this particular scene that you see, this particular picture that you see, is from a scene from that movie. And I was moved by how this evolved when, I will come to the end a bit later, towards the end of it. But a brief moment of his life that turned everything around for him. And I do have a story to share. I want to introduce you to a woman, and she was an extremely good employee, right? And there was a brief period of her time when she was down. She had been recently widowed. She had a 5-year-old child, and she was had just joined a new team to take on a new role, a fresh role, and all of this was too heavy on her. And at that point in time, the boss of hers that she was reporting into, that she moved into, he suggested that she take up another role that would enable her get a female mentor, so she could easily access, speak to, and then she could be well supported in terms of how her mental stress or psychological safety was taken into consideration. So this lady moved teams, and she was offered three roles, three different roles. And all of these three roles were not something that she had been, trained to do. She was not educated in the technology field of operations, but she was handed over these roles in light of the way that she had operated all of these years. And that led from that had turned her life from where she was. She took on different roles, multiple roles across the organization. She accomplished a lot in all of these roles at a very quick time. And and I just want to say that lady was me. And what was missing in that piece of puzzle, besides what usually happens in our cultures, is, the labeling. If my line manager or my people leader had thought, so this lady is a widow, she has a child, and she will not be able to give her full time to work. She will be, she may need some extra time off, or she might not be fully, in at work, will not be able to support it. This role wouldn't have been the starting point to where I am today. But the unconscious bias that was broken because of all the labels that were overlooked was what led me to where I am today. And that I'm very, very thankful for. So my question: do differences control our behaviors? And does it make one's one come across as a particular brand or an identity in someone else's eyes because of the labels that we carry? Or are we able to bring in, or overlook all of these emotions and bring in a culture that is able to support the best of what is needed for that organization, or for that point in time, for the people at that point in time? So I'd like to introduce myself now. So hello, my name is Awesome. Yes. So what's in a name, right? What does Nila carry, and what does the tag that I have carry? More than the tag that I want to be defined by, I want to be awesome, and that is who I am, right? So what are the labels at work that we face every single time, every single day? So you could come from a different country, you could be from a gender different from the people leader that you work with, or the team members that you work with. And you could have your own interpretation, or humans might have their own interpretation of physical differences or accents. And research shows it just takes about minute milliseconds to notice an accent, and we unconsciously assume social class based on an accent. So how do we make sure our people that we work with are beyond all of these labels that we bring about at work? So, while battling different forms of insidious, unintentional bias, most of us think we are fair minded people who don't let things like gender, skin color, age, or other factors influence our assessment of others' skill or character. But that's simply not the case. For an overwhelming majority of us who are not as fair minded as we think that we are, and standard discrimination, anti discrimination policies and laws aren't going to be the root of the problem. What needs to shift is the awareness, individual commitments to checking in and taking a step back to assess your own thoughts. It really takes a commitment to countering unintentional, unconscious bias. And by doing that, we are ensuring diversity in hiring, diversity in promotion, and by effective education, how bias actually works, right? So sadly, I want to say, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the very segment of work that most of us are associated with, carry the most number of labels in an organization. Think about how you identify yourself. What factors and features do you measure yourself by? Do you think the characters that you have uh, within yourself are the ones that others perceive you by? What identifiers are your most prominent in reshaping or shaping your experiences in the world, right? Now, and what are these drivers of our cultures and the way that we operate, right? So, and as we know globally and across cultures, across countries, the dimensions of diversity vary by country, right? So, when I first started my career about 2 decades ago, I was put through a training. I was lucky to have gone through that. I was with Hewlett Packard then, and then it was a training that taught me the cultural nuances and differences of various countries, and teaching me how every culture, every business, um, every person in different culture operated. For example, if we were on a global conference call and if an American noticed that their Chinese counterpart does not speak up, it is commonly assumed that it is because they have nothing to contribute and are assumed to be unhelpful for the team. But from a Chinese point of view, on the other hand, they are being extremely respectful and waiting for their American counterparts to call on them. To the Chinese, the Americans are excluding them from participation. So there are two sides to this coin. There are two views to how we look at certain perceptions of geography, of cultures around us. So what are we hearing? We might be hearing that millennials, could be our target because they are too tech savvy, and does a company or an organization want people with positive personalities only? And are you not a supporter of multiculturalism and diversity? So you're not a right fit for us. Surely this is something out of the books for every diversity hiring, right? So hiring for every diversity role. So seeing our identifiers appropriately reflected in society is a foundation of representation. Having a version of ourselves depicted in society not only affects how we think of ourselves, but it also affects, I feel, on how other groups think of us and engage with us. Of course, these predetermined perspectives can be clear and noticeable at times, like with generational norms, and they are also often shown through stereotypes and, yes, as we've spoken, unconscious bias. So I totally believe that these must have labels are kind of dangerous, and sorting everybody into boxes with pre-assigned labels might make our life simpler and our choices too obvious, but it also leads to missed opportunities. So you might ask, how can we create and support something without a strong definition? How can we make our choice without a list of distinctive features we should focus on, which is extremely important for any diversity, equity, and inclusion person or a worker? So I think I could suggest a few. So my next question is, what's the tag behind your back, right? Are we looking at these unconscious biases or implicit biases in favor of or against a thing, person, or group? when compared to another often held perspective without us even noticing what it actually says. It's usually a concept that says humans naturally connect with certain information with individuals based on certain identifiers, and that happens subconsciously, whether it be whether it be to relating certain attributes to specific genders or certain behaviors or specific races. People will automatically form associations between factors based on what they have or what they have not been exposed to, and that includes accurate representation amongst other factors. So this type of unintentional grouping isn't often detected through verbal announcement or testimony. So it can often go unidentified and unchecked. So, how might we create an inclusive culture? So, these are my quick 8 steps that I have learned and put to practice in my career also. Yes, minimizing unconscious bias and non inclusive micro messages is your very, very first step. My last step on the scale is ensuring that your team is made up of diverse individuals. But I would recommend 7 other steps much before the 8th step, because as culture changes or as diversity specialists, it's important that we respect differences. It's important that we, are able to voice out when others cannot, being open-minded about others' opinions and ideas, and making sure that our discussions are always inclusive and includes people around us. And also, my point 6 is on how can we encourage every individual within their team to share ideas? How can we eliminate fear? How can we create a safe space for people to work with? I've being sitting through all of the other topics, psychological safety has come in as a primary topic by most speakers here, which I'm thankful for, and I'm very, very happy about. But how do we create that space? How do we make sure we are able to innovate without fear of retribution? How are we able to create a culture that is able to speak up and say the right things, do the right things? How do we support all team members to have a reasonable work life and personal balance? Yeah. So intersectionality, again, I saw another speaker talk about it. Yes, it is about identifying what makes those middle spaces of a person's multifaceted identity, be it race, ethnicity, gender, generational attributes. So yes, just like her example, she really picked words from my what I had prepared, what I speak about in life. I am a woman. I'm a mother. I'm a woman of color. I run. I used to be a professional volleyball player at one point in time. I have. I'm a writer. I'm into arts. But what defines me is my organization able to support all of that, which makes me. So, are we able to apply an intersectional lens into everything that we undertake across the organization or the businesses, or the culture that we're trying to develop in the places that we operate in? So, viewing diversity through an intersectional lens really helps people break the common stereotypes, unconscious biases, and also mitigate chances of microaggressions in the workplace. And it helps better decision making in the workplace. So, can we fully eliminate bias? That's my question. So, let's question this ourselves. How can we fully eliminate bias in any of its forms? At this point in time, I think we cannot. I sadly think we cannot. But what we can do is we can question our assumptions. We can question our biases. We can ask or challenge another person to challenge us as to how we evaluate our decisions in at different points in time. And if we are able to talk about individuals who are affected, show them the way to be more participative, look at available resources in the organization, put up resources in the organization that can bring them into the fold, that can help them be a part of the happiness quotient in our workplaces. yes, we did speak about job descriptions. Someone spoke about job descriptions, and we speak about how we can bring in inclusive practices, inclusive language at work. So how can we make our hiring processes, and how can we make it more inclusive? But and how do we select people based on the roles, based on their capabilities, skills, ambitions, and motivations, let's say, and not based on the buckets of diversity or the ticks that we need to make in that diversity checklist, right? It really, really doesn't help anyone if people are chosen for a role just because they are a tick in the box. And obviously, like everybody else, even I would want to know that I've been selected for a position on merit, not because I'm a woman, right? Yes. So what do we do? It all starts with us. It's a very simple step, one step at a time. Discard or try discarding one label at a time. So, the key to unlocking benefits of diverse perspectives in the workplace totally lies in understanding and appreciating varied experiences of our colleagues. And I'm sure all of you on this call will agree. And learning how intersectionality affects colleagues within the organization is the very, very first step that I would recommend into truly creating a diverse and inclusive workforce where all our employees, all our people feel supported and encouraged to show up to work with their whole true selves. And yes, the end game, irrespective of the countries that we are in, irrespective of the barriers, irrespective of the boundaries, irrespective of the perspective that you might have of a certain country or people from different faiths or different buckets of diversity. The end game is to be in a place where we do not need labels and tick boxes anymore. So we are creating a world that deserves peace, and we are creating a world that is equal and a place where everyone feels belonged. So, and that is when we will know that we've arrived, and that is when we know that we've created a better future for our kids. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity.
Nila, thank you so much. That was brilliant. Honestly, really great to hear. And things that jumped out for me that I wanted to sort of call out and just really resonated in the work that we both do is this piece on, the tag behind your back. I've not heard that expression like that. And actually, that really makes sense to me of the things that we don't see about ourselves that others might be projecting or having a bias or a belief about us that we don't know. And then just that question of, can we fully eliminate bias? I'm with you. I don't think we can, but to have awareness of our own value set, our own projections, our own bias, just that level of raising awareness is the very beginning for, as you describe, us reaching a place of inclusion and peace. I love that. So Nila, thank you so much. It was truly wonderful to listen to you today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Bye.